thanks to Bitkom that we have the chance to talk to you about the ideas of artificial intelligence, and the business cases that we can solve with that and support and solve problems in the banking business. So, from my side, I'm a little bit focused on the payments business, sorry for that. And I think we have a lot of challenges in the future, especially in the payment business, because what we see at the moment is that payments are really speeding up. That means from processing of a payment, especially in the mass payments in Europe, the past was that we had 1 or 2 days for the processing. In the future, we are going to have 20 seconds. I think everybody heard of instant payments already. So this is a speeding up from about 10,000%. I tried to calculate that before. So just to give you a clue about what the banks are facing at the moment concerning their IT infrastructure and their processes for the processing of payments. So. But instant payment is not the topic today, but how we can solve these things and these challenges of the future. And I think from my side, because as I said, I'm very, very narrow-minded and focused on this payment topic. I think there are some more topics in banks I heard of. So yeah, the topic today is how we can rely on things like artificial intelligence, and I think it's very close connected to big data. It's very good that I have some expert on the stage concerning that, because I don't know that much about this artificial intelligence. So I'm supported by Matthias, Kurt, and Konrad, and I would like them to introduce themselves. So briefly, a few words about yourself and especially what artificial intelligence means for you and what your touch points are concerning that. Because maybe we start with you, Kurt. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you, Christian. My name is Kurt Sandkuhl. I'm from Rostock University, and I'm sort of the living interface between computer science and business administration, because I'm responsible for business information systems. So what is artificial intelligence for me? Well, my computer science side, I'm an engineer, says that computer science is, artificial intelligence is the most exciting topic currently in research. You can do a lot of research in this area, so I'm really thinking this is an exciting area, a fun area. From a business administration side, I think this is somehow a bit scary area, because if I not look at the consequences of artificial intelligence, but the approaches that many organizations have to artificial intelligence, because some of these prerequisites, like having the right data in place and using it in a way that is implemented in an organizational context, this is something which is very often not completely understood. And so we run a bit the risk that we are too excited about this, and so the engineer in me maybe gets a bit wild when this comes to artificial intelligence. But the other side, well, I'm also teaching business models, so let's think of what we actually do with computers, with artificial intelligence, and how we implement it. So I think we will discuss this later.
Yeah, we have hours. So, Konrad.
Yeah, so where's the... Einfach reinsprechen, okay. So my name is Konrad Hochmuth. I'm working for Inform. That's a software vendor. Okay, now take this one. So my name is Konrad. I'm working for Inform. We are a software vendor located in Aachen, Germany. And our focus is to identify fraud and risk inside banking, payments, and cards. And so therefore, you already mentioned 20 milliseconds. Cards had for ages the problem to have response times in milliseconds. So I think a lot of things are already had touch points in the past. So yeah, last thing that I would like to say, what is AI? Maybe comes from our focus. My focus is risk and fraud, real-time processing, pinpoint accuracy to identify risks inside the inside payments, stuff like that. looking at all kinds of data, and now what does that, from my business perspective, translate into what is AI? AI for me simply is the name of my toolbox. I don't care that much about, is this machine learning or is this knowledge based or whatever it is. It's the name of the solution. So my solution has to be smart. And so therefore, in order not to confuse everyone to be, what is machine learning, what is knowledge based, we decided to call it hybrid AI so that people have the feeling, yes, combining machine learning with knowledge based. That's my understanding very much about. So the question AI is just the name of my toolbox.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Matthias Terlau, attorney and partner at GÖRG, responsible for payment and bank regulation. To describe my activity in this field, obviously a life of a lawyer is holding your client's hands throughout your professional career. But maybe more specifically, so I try to think of myself of being somewhat the bridge between the technology and regulation, trying to form the gap or trying to uphold the gap between technology and regulation. If I look at artificial intelligence from a regulatory, from a legal perspective, we can say there is a small little past of employment of artificial intelligence, which has been quite successful, and we might talk about this. It's sort of credit rating is a good example for this. Then there is a sort of struggling in the present. Voice banking would be one of those struggles at current and during the last 2-3 years. And then there is obviously a future which needs to encompass and needs to grab hold of the technological innovation, and that's performed and that's about to come through the help of big data and artificial intelligence. And that's obviously a big challenge for everyone, for regulators, for technology companies, to structure this future. And this, obviously, the supervision and regulation is a necessity. And there are many goals that need to be achieved in this field, but to get a good feeling for the measure and for the appropriateness of this is the challenge.
So, what are, from my perspective, of course, from the payment side, we are always talking about compliance things that could be solved via artificial intelligence, because this is one of the major targets or challenges that we have concerning the business. But I think there are still a lot more maybe fields where artificial intelligence makes sense. Do you have, what are your use cases or your favorite use cases in the payment business? So let's think from the front side to the front end to the back end. So Konrad, what is from your side the typical field for artificial intelligence then?
Yeah, I think when it comes to thinking about it, maybe start at the device. So artificial intelligence to be used as an indicator to identify us, authenticate us, to see, is the way that I hold my device correspondent to what I typically do? Is my heat map of my thumb or my fingers or stuff like this, is this something that can identify me already as my customer, me as the customer that I think I am? That would be the first part where AI plays an important role. It doesn't even make sense to build too much rules about it. AI is much more efficient in identifying us and going on that path. We typically only get the information, what's the likelihood of this person being the right one, because this is on-device stuff, is when it ends up an hour, when we develop software, or implement at banks, we just get this information and we try to get all of the data streams to put together and then to have like identify 1 out of 100,000 that is the one that is truly fraud. So this is my perception of where AI can help. And some of the stuff, knowledge base is very, very good in certain areas. When it comes to new patterns, adapted patterns, you just need the support of artificial intelligence to do this job. And this is what we see in our daily lives, that it's a hybrid model between knowledge-based things, and I think it is important that on our way to have understandable AI, to modularize what we learn from AI in order to get it back into our knowledge from a knowledge-based perspective and tell the customer what we see, why we declined the credit. But I think this is a little bit the topic that I would put as my knowledge from AI point of view.
Yeah. Kurt, from your side, is it mainly compliance topics that we could use artificial intelligence for processing payments, or maybe other banking areas, or are there more other things that where it makes a lot more sense to use this AI for?
I think I have to switch the microphone again. So
This is a challenge from your side, right?
this is not an AI microphone. Okay.
So we need human intelligence here. Yeah?
I think if we discuss about use cases for AI in compliance, in context of compliance, there's everything from the end user and understanding how the end user, the customer works. So this is like modeling behavior, modeling context, what you just explained, Konrad. But also, of course, everything which is captured in regulations and somehow in laws can be translated in some kind of rule system, which you then need to follow if you handle transactions and payments. And rule systems are part of artificial intelligence, but also like machine learning, learning from this data, from these contextualization, from what you know about your customer. So KYC, know your customer, know your partner. This is actually what you can do with artificial intelligence. And maybe to implement this, the real challenge is not only to identify what data you need, but to have a data supply chain in the back office to really have the data in the right format and to be able to do the processing fast. And that's actually one of the biggest challenge for all the use cases.
Yeah. So, but since we are doing, you want to. I have another topic for you, Matthias. Because now it comes to the regulator, because as we're doing, or we have more and more decisions made by artificial intelligence in the future, I think so. I think the case would be for the regulator and of course for the customer to understand why this decision is made. So from my side, as you said, if it is denied for me to when I want to have a credit from the bank and the bank employee says to me, no, you cannot get this credit, and I ask them why, it's not enough for me to, if he just tells me the system denied it. So first of all, maybe this is especially your topic, Matthias. What is the challenge concerning the regulator to build up a little bit understandable AI? And yeah, what is going to be the topic concerning laws and so on concerning this one?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, first of all, I think the field of application of AI is quite wide, obviously, and if we look at the customer-facing side, then customers are obviously used in their shopping experience to get instant response, customer convenience, and that's what they probably and will very soon or nowadays require from banks as well. So very instant procedures, very instant processes, credit decisions instantly, car applications instantly, responses instantly to their requirements. That can all be performed by artificial intelligence and using the data, big data of their clients. banks can offer products to their clients. Obviously, this has all has some implications and some downsides also. While the public, the customer may embrace the new technology and new facilities very eagerly, they might then quickly learn about the downsides as well. Because if the credit decision for a car credit, or if your credit card application is turned down, because the machine, the artificial intelligence, having processed all the data that's available to the bank, including any publicly available data, which could also be included in this processing. If it turns out that for some reason your credit score is not high enough, because maybe this machine has found someone with an identical name in this universe, and we talked about this issue yesterday, which has obviously had some criminal activities in its past, then the machine might turn down your credit decision, and the customer might find out all of a sudden that his rating has gone down. Or if we look at another customer-facing response like voice systems, that's all very intricately regulated, and we've seen the attempts by Amazon and by Google in the past to install voice banking. And both attempts have been recalled after 2 or 3 months, each time unexpectedly, probably because of regulation, and I think I have some ideas why, but all those systems obviously can achieve quite a lot, but they sometimes need some help in the case of your credit decision. You might then call your call center assistant to explain this issue to him, and regulators might require banks to have this capacity for call center or for employees explaining the credit decision to the customer. And in the case of voice banking, you might need not only the voice response system that has been installed within Google or within Amazon, but you might need other ways, items to identify, to authenticate the customer, not only through voice, because that's maybe not sufficiently secure. All these items are obviously subject, or items that need to be caught by regulation and need to be solved somehow. And some of them are not solved yet, I could say.
But this is a little bit crazy, because you save effort, time and money with AI, because the decisions are made a lot faster. But on the other hand, you need capacities to explain the consumers or the customers why you did this decision. So it's a funny thing at the end.
It will create a big bias for banks, obviously. If you take that credit decision where the customer is declined, then all the time that the call center assistant needs to dedicate to this customer is highly valuable, is a lot of money in comparison to the credit decision, which costs the bank probably a couple of cents then if it's performed by artificial intelligence. And so that's a competitive issue between banks that are obviously looking at making their processes a lot more efficient and cost saving. So issues to be solved there.
Yeah. Good.
I think we might even face another challenge in this issue, and the challenge is that if you use machine learning approaches, deep learning approaches, sometimes not even the developer exactly knows why certain decisions were made. So this is why this, what is called explainable AI, is really a research field. If you use rules or rule systems, you usually have an expert who defined the rule and can explain why the decision is made. But in machine learning and deep learning, There are some approaches who try to explain this, but at the end this is like an approximation. So this is a statistical approach where you classify things and then by using these classifications make the decision. So I think there we really need to put some effort into this, and I think in the real world systems you will already have some solutions, but that's a huge area which is still under research.
Thank you. You just mentioned real world examples. Yeah, I mean, if you think about right now, to deny a claim in insurance, yes, you will get feedback from the customer. I don't see any feedback from the customer if we pay out. So maybe in some use cases, we just have to redefine where we're looking at. And to think about the advantage, always to discuss what is not working is maybe very much German, I think, at that end. But to be very, very happy of how much is working. Thinking about, we are already relying on internally very, very stupid scorecards when it comes to our spam filters. Yes, and all of us are annoyed when once in a while an important email ends up in the spam filter. But the other way around, just the idea not having a spam filter in place would just completely corrupt my life. And I think so therefore we just have to approach some of the items from practical use cases, except that we are not there. We have the spam filters that go on and have not put this thing into my right folder, but I'm happy of a 98% thing doing it right. And I think so therefore I encourage all of us to go this way, and there's no, I think from our perspective, there's not even a thought to do this differently, and just to accept that certain things will end up in a human communication and identify what is really the reason behind it. That's the same stuff with compliance. Yes, if certain identifiers consider you to be a high risk for a certain product, it might clarify in a personal interview or stuff like this. And this is something that we just have to accept as part of our migration, being in the middle of having not the smartest things on Earth yet, and maybe not all of the data available yet to make this possible smartest decision right now. And I think this is something where we can only work on the data that we have.
But this is a good aspect that we should have a closer look on as well for the last minutes. You said the data and the mass of data, especially deep learning and self-learning systems, I learned that they exist, or they are relying that they have as much data as possible, and they need real data, not test data or something. They need real data. So, but this is a trade-off on the other side, because especially in the banking market, we are a little bit conservative concerning handing over data to somebody else. So how can we solve this to really have good results from the deep learning systems, and on the other hand, or the other side, see that we have a lot of regulation concerning the data at the moment. So maybe you have the solution for that, right?
Yeah, it's the funny thing is obviously, as far as I'm told, most data collected within banks comes from payment transactions. So if banks could, and obviously there are other transactions like security transactions, but payment transactions really disclose the life of a customer. So if banks are able, and well, they are able, obviously, but if they're willing and allowed to analyze that data, that's a big treasure. Having said that, obviously there is a GDPR and there is consent requirements which can be overcome, which need to be obtained. And then if once that consent is obtained, obviously the challenge for banks is how to make use of the data without losing the confidence and the trust of the customer. Because obviously banks could use their data like Facebook and market their data and monetize their data, sell it to some agency and have them develop products out of it, banking products or other products. But that might, obviously there will be high requirements for the consent there, but and on the other hand, trust of the customer is at stake. So there is a big challenge, and the business models of banks are quite different on this in this area. There are some challenger banks who are quite eager to process that data, and others who are more conservative. But probably the way lies in the middle, and there needs to be some middle ground to be discovered there.
I think this is, for us, a key issue. If we think about a bank of the size of Deutsche Bank, for example, they might have 30, 40 transactions per day, which could be fraudulent, and it comes down to, in the reality, that 2 or 3 of them are really part of a scam. So looking at these numbers, and then if you just think about, we want to build models that include maybe 500 different features in order to be accurate and have a good false positive rate. As long as data is not shared, you will have a huge difficulty to identify good algorithms, to develop good algorithms that are pinpointed enough not to completely make certain processes not working anymore. So therefore, I think it's a must for the banking industry, for example, insurance industry, everything the same, to offer data for institutions to optimize and find algorithms that are more pinpoint than they are right now. And we see that our opponents, the fraudsters, they use AI and machine learning to attack us, and they have, since they have a different focus, they have the opportunity to use that in an optimal way. And we only see a very small amount of transactions, and building models on that is very difficult. And at the same time, it would be perfect for universities to learn new algorithms. The current algorithms in place are simply not pinpointed enough and I think every single one who has worked with AI started with this butterfly 200 records data set. This is just ridiculous when it comes to educating our potentials, our data scientists to build new algorithms, new approaches to AI. And as long as we are not going to do this, we will still be kind of stuck with butterfly kind of built models.
Just a quick remark. Thank you, Konrad, for emphasizing this. We really, at universities, have the problem of test data, real data. What we do currently, there is like a payment simulator, which produces large amounts of data. You can use this data for maybe checking performance, but you cannot use the data for really developing models. And this is really a shortage, which I think we should also put into the context of engineering cycles. If you think that those who want to commit fraud, they still continuously develop their methods, and we always have to adapt. So, and we only can have really short engineering cycles of really implementing new algorithms for detecting fraud if we have real test data and if these test data evolve. So that's a very important thing.
Yeah, very interesting. I think we have just a few minutes left. Maybe we make a short last round, famous last words from everybody. But my question, and maybe it's a little bit more from another perspective, and the things that we are discussing with friends in the evening about artificial intelligence is something a little bit different from the things that we were discussing now. It's things like, is artificial intelligence destroying jobs, or is it more that we are create new jobs with artificial intelligence? So what is your answer to your friends if you have these questions in the evening?
Okay, I think it's destroying and creating at the same time. Because if you look at the current market, banks are obviously giving up certain activities, or vice versa. Fintechs, new incumbents, new companies are taking over front-end activities, back-end activities, and banks and incumbent players are forced to outsource and to use their activities, and thereby obviously artificial intelligence in securities markets, in robo-advice is a good example, where banks will need to sometimes downsize or need to cannibalize their current offerings if offering robo-advice. So it's that's sort of the market change that's taking place, and I think it's better to embrace it rather than to defend it.
Of course, you are creating jobs.
Yeah, I think it's a migration from one type of job to another one, but it's obvious that we just follow the path. So there's no decision connected to shall we stop using AI because we want to keep jobs? Just the thought is just ridiculous. So therefore, I don't even discuss this anymore. It's a done thing. So we just go for it.
Keep this answer in mind. It's very easy and very short.
My response is just, it's not a job killer, it's a job changer. So you will change the jobs. And for some people, this means this is a job killer because they do not want to change and adapt. But for others, it's a big opportunity. So I think changing jobs is what we do here.
Thank you. So thanks to you. It was a pleasure. Thanks to you for your interest. I hope you learned some new aspects, or maybe we discussed some things that are in your head as well. So thank you very much. And I give back to you. Thank you.